Welcome in the Locked On Phillies. Yesterday, we witnessed the best Philadelphia Phillies game in a decade. It was the most electric atmosphere I felt at a baseball game in my life. It was absolutely incredible, and we'll break it all down next on today's Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is indeed Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Been talking Phillies baseball for years. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And our episode today is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline is where the game starts. My voice might sound a little hoarse. It's because I was screaming a lot yesterday. My eyes might look a little bloodshot. It's because I was up all night celebrating. It was... Yesterday was one for the ages. Amazing. Where to even start? It was the Phillies' first home playoff game in 11 years. It was absolutely incredible. And if you remember how the last one ended with Ryan Howard on a heap on the first baseline, yeah, well, we were due to kind of wash that out of our memories. And we kind of did that with the Cardinals series, but still, all three of those games, or the two of those games that you played, and what would have been the third game if the Cardinals had won one of the two, would have been in St. Louis at Busch Stadium. The first two games of this series were in Atlanta, and the Phillies stole game one, lost game two. And then the series shifts back here to Philadelphia, and it's their first time being home since like September 26th. It was an incredibly long road trip away, and that whole time away, the Phillies went from looking like they were choking and collapsing and not ready to make the playoffs to backing their way in, to Aaron Nola almost throwing a perfect game to get them in. Not almost throwing a perfect game, but you know what I mean. He took a perfect game through 6 innings, so that's pretty darn good. To getting in, to the celebration, to sweeping the Cardinals in the wild card series and winning the first playoff series in 11 years for the Philadelphia Phillies, to stealing one on the road against the Braves with Ranger Suarez starting in a great performance in Atlanta. And now it shifts back to Philadelphia, and the crowd has all of that, all built up, pent-up emotions. You're playing a division rival. You're playing the defending World Series champion. You have a team you believe in. You have a pitcher going in Aaron Nola that's probably been your best guy all year. And it was a perfect storm of creating an electric environment. But still, the Phillies needed to hold up their end of the bargain. Listen, the introductions were incredible. Like, I had chills the entire time through the introductions because all I was thinking of was the 11 years that went into getting here. They weren't all steps forward. They weren't all steps back, but it'd been a long, long ride to get to that point. And not everybody on this team has been here for a large amount of that time that they missed the playoffs. There are new guys, there are new faces, but it just felt like what this franchise and organization had been building to. They had achieved, at least in some part, what they had set out to accomplish. And there's still obviously clearly more to accomplish. But in those introductions, it was like, oh, wow, that hard work that they put in, yeah, it paid off. They're playing in front of their fans at this stadium. It was sold out. 45,000 attendance, absolutely electric. The rally towels were waving. Red October was totally back. That's great. The atmosphere was great. The game hadn't even started. I haven't even started talking about the game. Tell you what, the Phillies absolutely took advantage of Spencer Strider falling off. Strider was really good through the first 2 innings, and I was nervous. I was very nervous that he was going to just absolutely dominate them through like 5, and then the bullpen was going to come in for Atlanta, and it was going to be one of those games. And Aaron Nola looked good too. But then in the third inning, the at-bat that did it, and the third inning of Game 3 of the NLDS has already gone down in Philadelphia Phillies lore. And you know what it starts out with? He wasn't the first batter of the inning, but where the rally started. Bryson Stott's 1 out at bat with Brandon Marsh on second. On second or on third? On third, yes. Brandon Marsh on third. He has like a 10-pitch at bat off of Spencer Strider, just pumping 98 at the letters, and ends up with a double down the right field line, reminiscent of the Brett Myers at bat. And it was great. It opened up the game. It was 1-0 after that double. Brandon Marsh scores after Brandon Marsh had worked a leadoff walk of 4 pitches. Just great discipline by him. And then the Braves make the dumbest decision I've seen a team make this postseason. You have a guy in Kyle Schwarber, and I understand Stott's on second. You have 1 out. You want to set up the double play. But you have a guy in Kyle Schwarber who is 0 for the playoffs. He hasn't gotten a hit in the Major League Baseball playoffs. And you intentionally walk him? I listen, I get he could leave the yard at any time, but you put him on to put 2 runners on base, and you get to Rhys Hoskins. So basically, you're giving it to a right-handed guy who not as much pop as Kyle Schwarber, but can leave the yard at any time too. I understand Rhys is also slumping. We talked about that. He only has 1 hit this postseason, or had 1 hit prior to yesterday's game. But to walk Kyle Schwarber to get to Rhys Hoskins when Kyle Schwarber hasn't had a hit in like 2 weeks is an incredible oversight by the Braves, in my opinion. And the first pitch to Rhys Hoskins was a 93-mile-an-hour fastball at the letters from Spencer Strider, his slowest fastball he threw, and Rhys made him pay. Yeah, it just nukes it to left field. The bat spike, the celebration, the arms up in the air, it was all amazing. That stadium was bumping. It's as loud as I've heard anything since the NFC Championship game against the Minnesota Vikings back in 2018, but it was the 2017 season. Literally, that's the only other time I've heard somewhere that loud. It was amazing, the environment in there. And after Rhys Hoskins rounds the bases, well, then you have JT Realmuto come up and hit a single, and then Spencer Strider's chased. And then the environment gets even more hectic. And it's 4-0 off the 3-run Rhys Hoskins home run. And JT Realmuto's now on base. And you're going to the bullpen. And the first pitch from Lee is right down the middle, a fastball to Bryce Harper that he hits a mile to right center field. And now it's 6-0. And there's no coming back from that at Citizens Bank Park. The environment was too much to overcome. The momentum was too much to overcome. The offense had broken open. You'd hit 2 home runs in the same inning. You had a 6-run inning for the second time this postseason. Do you know how many other teams have done that this postseason? None. Do you know how many 6-run innings the Phillies have ever had in the postseason prior to this year? None. It was incredible. In your wildest dreams, you could not have imagined the 9-1 ball game that ended up happening at Citizens Bank Park yesterday. Now, to the Braves' credit, and this is the only thing keeping them really alive, Charlie Morton, who's going to throw, and we're going to talk about the game today coming up in the next segment, but Charlie Morton, who's going to throw, a very qualified start, a veteran guy, been in this situation before, facing off elimination. He's really good in elimination games. He's got like a sub-1 ERA in elimination games, which is preposterous. And with Strider giving up so many runs and having that third inning be such an implosion, it was kind of a backhanded benefit for the Braves because manager Brian Snitker, he knew that the game was kind of out of hand. So he went with a lot of bullpen arms that they don't normally use. Jake Odorizzi wore a lot for them. So they still have a lot of the bullpen ready. They still have Charlie Morton ready. It's not like they're dead. But, man, they feel pretty close to dead. And the Phillies feel very much alive. Seranthony Dominguez didn't throw. Zach Eflin didn't throw. You have both of those guys clean and available on 2 days worth of rest for today's contest. And it's just the offense believes, the fan base believes, the manager believes, Rob Thompson, who everyone loves, who just got the 2-year new deal to be the real manager of the Phillies, not just interim. Like, the fans love him. They are buying in. The players are buying in. Everything is great for the Philadelphia Phillies right now. And something magical is happening in Philadelphia. If you weren't in the building, I think it was very well conveyed through the broadcast how exciting it was there and how loud it was there and what the feeling was in the building. And if you were in the building, what you saw was a not once in a lifetime, because you hope they replicate it again this postseason. You hope they replicate it again today, but one of those rare lifetime moments of sports where everything just happens your way in an incredibly exciting environment. You wait 11 years, you play a home playoff game, and it happens like that. Those are the days, that's why you become a sports fan. That's why you listen to Locked On Phillies. That's why you're a Phillies fan for days like yesterday. It was the perfect day. It was the perfect day. So much went into it. Everybody contributed. It was really, really good. Aaron Nola's start was incredible. I can't say enough about how well this team played and how well the fan base and the organization rose to the occasion yesterday. But hey, they got to do it again. And coming up next, we're going to preview game 2. We have the starting pitchers, and there's a bit of a surprise on the Phillies side. We'll discuss and why I'm a little bit wary about that. And I'll give my explanation. I'll break it all down next as we continue Locked On Phillies. All right, I want to tell you about my friends at BetOnline. They bring you today's show, and betonline.net is your number one source for football betting info this season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game you can find. As always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all of your sport wagering information. With live betting, up to the minute scores for every sport out there, it's the fastest, easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. All right, so it's time for game 4 of the NLDS and hopefully the final game of this series. The Phillies have the Braves' backs against the wall. And like I said, they will face Charlie Morton. Now, Charlie Morton has not been good against Philadelphia. Career-wise, a lot of the Philadelphia Phillies hitters have been incredible against Charlie Morton. I believe Bryce Harper's hitting like over 400 against him. I think they have multiple guys hitting over like 400 against Charlie Morton for their career. And a lot of guys in the 300s. It's a good matchup mound-wise for the Philadelphia Phillies as far as their hitters seeing Charlie Morton well and everything. And the nice thing about yesterday and beating Spencer Strider, now Strider's not lurking in the shadows like, oh, well, they're facing elimination. Are we going to have to face 3 innings of really good Spencer Strider in like the 7th, 8th, and 9th today? No, he's done. He's not throwing again this series. Their best pitcher, because he is their best pitcher, is no longer available because you beat him yesterday. So that's great. But an interesting call by Philly Rob Thompson. I would start Bailey Falter today, and I wouldn't have a second thought about it. I think he's earned that right. But Rob Thompson's going another direction. He's starting Noah Syndergaard. Syndergaard hasn't started in a long time for this team. He's thrown some innings out of the bullpen, but he hasn't started. And the reason, I guess, Rob Thompson is going with Noah Syndergaard is because of the veteran presence. Syndergaard's been here before. He's thrown in the playoffs before. I believe he was a part of that Mets team that went to the World Series, that lost to the Royals. Like that's a lot of playoff experience. He's made big starts. He knows what that environment's like. The moment won't be too big for him. Bailey Falter, there's no guarantee that the moment won't be too big for him, even though I believe that he could handle it. And I think he's the guy that should be starting. I understand the thought process of going with the veteran arm in this type of a situation with Noah Syndergaard. I'd be really surprised if Bailey Falter wasn't available and maybe the first guy out of the pen if Syndergaard struggles. It's all hands on deck for this one. It's going to be Syndergaard for a couple innings. Hopefully you get 4 out of him. It could be Falter. It could be Eflin in a longer stint. It could be Kyle Gibson. Who knows? It could be Sir Anthony Dominguez for 2 innings, Alvarado for 1 inning. Who knows how they set up, but a lot of guys available. And this is a situation where you got to pull out all the stops because you don't want to go back to Atlanta having to face elimination on the road in that environment, losing one at home like that. Like you don't want the momentum to shift. So you got to pull out all the stops, but it's just weird to me because I don't think Noah Syndergaard has been that sharp with the Philadelphia Phillies. I don't think he's been that good of a pitcher. I still don't think he has a full feel for his arsenal since having Tommy John. So you're taking a guy who's less talented right now in Noah Syndergaard, in my opinion, than Bailey Falter. I think Bailey Falter's a better pitcher, but you're sacrificing some talent for a lot more experience. Here's what I'll say. As much as I disagree with the pitching decision by Rob Thompson, the decisions he's made this year have been a large majority positive. Large, like 95% of every decision he's made has been great. I got to trust him. I didn't trust him to stick with Kyle Schwarber and Rhys Hoskins yesterday. By the way, I owe them an apology. Kyle Schwarber and Rhys Hoskins, big parts of that game yesterday. That's on me. I guess stick with the guys that brought you there can pay off sometimes, and there it certainly did. Kudos to Rob Thompson. That's why I'm going to trust him again with the Noah Syndergaard thing because I think that I think this could be trouble as someone honks their horn ridiculously. The city of Philadelphia is happy, though. We're happy. I think this could potentially implode. Like the other guys, Ranger Suarez isn't going to implode. He had a rough game, and he still only gave up 1 run. Zach Wheeler's dominant. Aaron Nola is dominant. Those guys are incredible. Noah Syndergaard could implode. This is the first starting pitcher in this postseason where I'm like, yeah, this guy could give up like 6 runs through 3 innings. But he could also get the job done. He give up like 1 through 4, none through 4, be good, pitch to contact, work out, use the momentum of the crowd. The offense could have another big day. If they score 9 runs again, they're not losing today. But I don't think they're scoring 9 runs again. So it's interesting. The pathway to getting there with Syndergaard on the mound is a little less clear than it is with some of your better pitchers. But still, I keep reverting back to Rob Thompson sees something. He's making his call. He's making his decision to start Syndergaard. I'm going to trust him because he's been right on pretty much everything this year. So we'll ride with Thor. The lineup, I'm going to be very interested. Charlie Morton, righty. So you're going to see Bryson Stott. You're going to see Brandon Marsh. I'd be surprised if it wasn't the same exact lineup you saw yesterday. I think that's who you're going to see out there. And if they win, get a couple days off. The NLCS, I believe, is not set to start until Tuesday or Wednesday. So you have plenty of days off. So play the same guys, let them run, use all your arms, burn them out. Like we got to find a way to win today. And it starts with Syndergaard versus Charlie Morton, who the Phillies have hit really well. The pitching matchup, definitely in favor of the Braves. But the momentum, hugely in favor of the Phillies. And for my money, the lineup right now that's better. The Phillies have scored. Remember this. I know they got shut out in game 2, but the Phillies have scored 16 runs in 3 games against the Atlanta Braves. That's nearly 6 a game. It's incredible. That's really good work, especially against the pitchers they faced. I think it's a good day for the Philadelphia Phillies. Coming up next, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about just the environment, the extracurricular activities, the chants and everything. If you weren't there, I'm going to try and recap some of the best things I saw from the game yesterday as we wrap up today's Locked On Phillies. You already heard what's coming up today. We know what's going on with game 2. Got to go out there and try and win against Charlie Morton, who's been good in elimination games, a veteran guy. You got to beat the World Series champions one more time. We'll see if they can do it. But coming up next, we're going to take one more look back at the day that was so perfect yesterday, the first home playoff game in 11 plus years. We'll discuss that as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. Man, where to start? What my favorite parts of yesterday were. First off, the rally towels. Like, I thought it was so cool that Dan Baker, of course, the in-house PA announcer for the Philadelphia Phillies, long time guy. You know his voice as announcing batters and everything like that. If you go to the games, you hear him announce everything. Dan Baker's an absolute treasure. And he did his pregame introductions. That was awesome. That was, I'll tell you who had the loudest cheers. Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto, Zach Wheeler, of course, Aaron Nola. Aaron Nola's might have been the biggest. It might have only been eclipsed by one guy, though, and that was Rout Thompson. This city loves Rout Thompson. And he looked almost uncomfortable when they showed him when the whole stadium was going crazy for him. And I love that about him. Just so understated and focused and humble. And yeah, Rob Thompson is a great guy to have in charge of this baseball team right now. And couldn't be happier with him getting the 2-year deal. So that was the introductions. But then Dan Baker says, because I guess someone got in his ear, or he had it timed out when the Fox broadcast was going to cut in. But he tells everybody, the Fox broadcast is cutting in right now. Everyone wave your rally towels, and the place goes berserk. And it was a sea of red on the broadcast. It was a sea of red in the press box. You could see it. It was amazing what an environment it was on a picture-perfect day for baseball, just slightly below 70 degrees. And it was wonderful. Then when the Phillies got up, it was kind of quiet the first couple innings. Then the third inning happened. And so many things happened. First of all, an all-time Philadelphia Phillies mocking chant, not of the tomahawk chop. We'll get to that. But Marcell Ozuna comes up, who, frankly, is not a good person. He is a domestic abuser who got a DUI earlier this year that I have no problem rooting against. And I don't think Braves fans even root for this guy. I think his saving grace is he's really good at baseball, or he's kind of good at baseball because he wasn't good yesterday and hasn't really been all that good this year. But other than that, he's just not a good person. He makes bad life decisions, and they clearly are documented that he does that. But so I don't feel remotely bad for the Phillies mocking him for this, but the Phillies fans rather, they start chanting DUI at Marcell Ozuna, which is just peak Philly to just DUI as he strikes out terribly. He might have gone over 3 with 3 strikeouts yesterday. He was awful, and he's been awful, and he's going to continue to be awful because he stinks. But that was a great chant. The DUI chant to Marcell Ozuna is just next level Philadelphia Phillies creativity. It's like that right level of kind of scumbag, but also justified and funny and everything. That was great. And then the tomahawk chop was being mocked through a lot of the games as Braves fans were leaving later in the game. Whole sections were doing it to him. They're doing it while Spencer Strider was on the mound struggling in the third inning. They were doing it later in the game when the Phillies hung on a couple extending runs. Here's what I'll say, because there were some people who were upset on social media about the tomahawk chop, saying, "Don't do that chant. That chant's not acceptable. It's not okay. We don't like that they do it. We definitely shouldn't do it here in Philadelphia." Here's what you need to understand: they're mocking it. They're not doing the tomahawk chop because they enjoy it. They're doing it because it's a stupid, outdated chant that shouldn't be done anymore. And the Philadelphia Phillies fans are mocking the Braves fans for doing it, showing them, hey, this is what you look like. This is stupid. This is a dumb chant. You shouldn't do it anymore. And we're going to do this dumb chant to show you how dumb it is that you cheer your team on in this way. So no, I have no issue with the Phillies fans doing it because they're not doing it in the same vein that the Braves are doing it. They're mocking the chant because we know how stupid and outdated it is. And we're bringing that to attention by absolutely clowning the Braves team and their fan base. I think it's a good job by the Philadelphia Phillies fans to mock that chant and to make fun of that organization and that team for allowing that to happen and everything there. And I'm perfectly fine with it. It's mocking. They're not doing it seriously. If they're doing it seriously, that would be what deserves a response of a lot of tweets that I saw yesterday about it. But they're mocking it. And I hope they continue to today. And I hope Marcell Ozuna continues to hear DUI chants. And I hope this fan base continues to be their loud, annoying, mean selves. Not like mean to other fans in the building, but I want this to be a mean fan base. I want this to be a tough place to play. Yesterday it was. Today it's going to be as well. And hopefully they can pull out the win, clinch the NLDS, and move on to the NLCS. How crazy would that be? Hey, you never know in October. Well, that's all our time for today's Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Now make your next listen Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sully, he covers baseball in general, does a great job. Go ahead and check out his work on Locked On MLB, available wherever you get your podcasts. I got a jet. Get ready for the game and get down to the ballpark, but this is going to be another fun one. Hopefully the Phillies pull it off. And I will talk to you next time on Locked On Phillies.